It's the Final Word World Cup Daily Day 37. Only a couple of days left in the group stage. Adam Collins with Vithushan Ehantharajah here in London. The action today was at Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad between South Africa, who have already qualified for the semi-finals, against Afghanistan, who needed to win by about 500 runs to jump into the top four. We're here for Westfield, London. Westfield, Stratford City, more extra, less ordinary. Vish, tell us all about it to begin in 30 seconds.
Well, so Afghanistan got off to their usual start and then tapered away as ever. Ended up posting 244 thanks to Rahzai. And for a moment, it looked like they were going to be comfortably short. You know, Joe Kurtzer did what he did. It's come in and been very impressive. And then South Africa just let the game slip away at the end there, and it ended up being, I suppose, not quite the Andile Pithakoya show, but it looked like we were going to blame him after a good start from the top order. But eventually brought it around to win pretty comfortably. Yeah,
it looks comfortable on paper, winning in the 48th over with 15 balls to spare, but they were hard held. They needed 33 from the last 30, and when that final pair came together, Pellet Kwayo batting with Rassie Radadusson, who top scored with 76 not out from 95 balls. I think they needed, as I've lost my spot on the page, they needed to go at about 4.5 and over.
Yeah,
and that went to about 6.5. So they really let it go deep because Afghanistan spinners just don't quit. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of rubbish on social media since Australia's win a couple of days ago, along the lines of, oh, well, it's only Afghanistan.
It is only
it's only Afghanistan. Bullshit. Afghanistan have been a revelation in this tournament. They could have won this game. In truth, Azmat getting to 97 not out, it probably meant that their 244 was a snifter more than we thought. At the halfway mark, they were at about 115 for 6 or something like that. So they did well to get where they got to. But it's not just the Rashid Khan story anymore. As well as he bowled today, it might have been the best he bowled in the whole competition, to be honest, but as well as he bowled, it's now become a much broader story. There's a stat that CricViz crunched today about the top 5 batters for Afghanistan through the tournament. They've averaged 180 per match. The top 5 for Afghanistan in 2015 World Cup, 98, and in 2019, 118. So their batting group is becoming a serious force, and their bowlers, who are so highly sought after on the T20 market, have reached maturity almost as one. Noor Ahmed, the new man, into the mix, but the others who have already been there for such a long time. The experience of someone like Nabi, who can bowl first change today and land it on the dot from the moment he arrives at the bowling crease. Yeah. We've seen how impressive Naveen's been. And Azmat, I reckon he's in my team of the tournament.
That's not a bad shout. I mean, Nabi's an interesting one because he started quite slowly. Yeah. And I think there was an element of, you look at his age and he's as old as us. So you're like, right, should be playing international cricket, boy. But he's really come back into his own, and I suppose stood up and been the Mo Nabi that we know he can be. Like, I think his most crucial. I suppose it used to be that his most crucial interventions would be with the bat. It was almost like everyone's going at fifth gear and he's the adult in the room.
Yeah.
And now I think it's more with the ball, where actually he kind of moves here and there. He generally works between the margins now as a bowler, and I think it was. I think they found it awkward at the start when they'd lost him as the glue, and suddenly it was all on Rashid Khan's turnovers and whatever Majib can conjure up. And I think now, well, I suppose at the back end of the tournament, he's kind of grown into this, I suppose into the role that he previously had, where he's been able to just to facilitate a few more things.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, even today when the batting didn't quite come off to the same extent, despite the fact they put on a brisk 41 to begin, Maharaj strikes with his first ball, an absolute beauty to find the edge of Gurbaz. Ibrahim Zadran, who made Afghanistan's first World Cup 100 only a couple of days ago against Australia, was caught down the leg side from Gerald Kutia, who had a good game, picking up, I think 4 it was in the end, 4 for 44. So and Shahidi, the captain, missed out. There were a couple of soft caught behinds consecutively, which left them, as I say, in a fair bit of trouble. 116 for 5, 160 for 6 when Rashid Khan was out. And it was all on Azmat. Now, he started this competition, I think I'm right in saying, without a one-day half-century. He's got 3 in this tournament. He's bettered his top score 3 times. He was on a hat-trick against Australia. He was within millimetres of knocking over Glenn Maxwell first ball. He gets Maxwell with that delivery, by the way. We're probably having a very different conversation around what Afghanistan are doing over the next week or so.
91 for 8 it would have been,
It would have been 91 for 8. That's exactly right. So, it feels like they've reached an extra level in this competition, beating a number of full members, being right at the end of the tournament. I know they really couldn't qualify today, but the fact that they were mathematically a chance of making it through speaks volumes about the progression, having not won a game at all last time around, winning just 1 in 2015, and that was against Scotland, a fellow associate member at the time. Of course, they've become full members since. And I think Azmatullah he typifies that. He's the embodiment of that. At just 23 years of age, a genuine threat with bat and ball, and it's such a shame that last ball that Rabada, playing his 100th one day today, by the way, bowled to him to complete the 50th over, was the perfect block hole Yorker, and he couldn't get it away for 100. He was on 97 and stayed on 97. They were bowled out from the final ball trying to take a single, but he was gutted. You could see when he was walking off, he knew just how close he was to something very, very special against an excellent bowling group.
So there's been a lot of milestone slowdowns in this, in this World Cup, and I suppose you kind of choose your fighter in terms of whether it's okay for some and not okay for others. Some might have 49, 50 one-day hundreds. The other might not have any. I thought he could have played this smarter though. I thought at the end you could tell they were trying to work it in the final over to Rabada. With the last wicket, they were clearly trying to work out twos.
Yep.
They knew they had to do it in even numbers, and they knew that it clearly got to a point where they were like, right, we're not legitimately going to smack 20 from this last over.
Right.
So why don't we play for your milestone? And I think they messed it up. I think they overthought it because by the end, he could have. So what? He was on 97 when he ended up facing that last ball. He missed the penultimate ball, as well. It was a shame. That was probably the only time I was like, go on, do it. This will be huge. And I mean, not that it made a damn lick of difference in the end, but I suppose in saying that, I don't know, would it have done?
I reckon if he gets those extra 3 runs, he might be in the team of the tournament. I mean, it's touch and go though.
I mean for the match. I reckon. Do you reckon if he gets a couple away in the penultimate over?
Oh, sorry, right.
And reaches the 100 by that last over,
then we're having a different. A squeaky bum thing for South Africa, who, by the way, have done nothing to alter the perception that they've got a bit of an issue batting second. We know that batting first they can be so powerful and put so much pressure on the fielding team. Well, they look like different players. I know Klaasen came and went today. Miller played a role in the middle, but nowhere near as frightening as they have been when batting in the last 10 overs and doing so when getting the opportunity to bat first. And we've seen other sides in the final 4, especially Australia and India, who started chasing so well and have backloaded their group stage by deciding to bat first and making that work for them bowling in the dew. And that's been such a success for them, knocking over Sri Lanka for 50-something and South Africa for 80-something. But Australia have had to do it both ways. And I know they've got the points today, South Africa, but if Australia win the toss in the semi-final, well, put it this way, Australia won't mind what they do in their semi-final at Calcutta, whereas South Africa will be desperate to win the toss and bat. If Australia get the opportunity to bat first, they will feel that is a massive advantage. Yeah,
definitely. I feel like their bowlers look different as well. I think Kurtzer was impressive today. He looked devastating against England. I mean, but it is England, obviously. We know what they've been like at this World Cup. But we've seen at the back end of the tournament, we've seen a bit more kind of nip where everyone's worried about. Where everyone's worrying about Dew, they're not necessarily thinking about what it could do to the seam of the ball. It kisses the surface and goes through a little quicker, jumps a little higher. But yeah, you're absolutely spot on. It feels like there's something there that there's a strand you can pull out. For a team that have posted superhuman numbers, there's still a lot of mortality there, isn't there?
And they've also got some injury concerns. We saw Bavuma, who couldn't move towards the end of his innings. He missed out on a ball that was a foot outside leg stump that he could have hit for 12, and next ball he holds out to deep square leg because he can't run. And earlier in the day, Lungi Ngidi, who's very much in their best 11 at the moment for South Africa, it might be that, you want to play your best cricket in the finals, right? And South Africa have played some, as you say, devastating, good word for it, devastating cricket earlier in the competition, the high point of that being their annihilation of England. I wonder whether they're just reaching the finals, not still playing their best cricket. And Australia, on the other hand, have done something spectacular a couple of days ago. It just feels like since those two sides played each other in the second round of the group stages, a lot of water's gone under the bridge.
Could I drop a word that all sports writers use and also hate?
Momentum.
Yeah. And I suppose to really dig into that, what you mean is peaking, really.
Yeah.
And so I think you're right. There is a fear that with this South African team and the way they've operated and the way they've looked in the last couple of weeks, that there is a bit of that. And obviously that's a lot of that is based on how their fixtures were set out before them, and that's understandable. That's going to happen. I think I'm going to be a bit mean here. Would you describe, if you could have that sentence back again, would you describe Temba Bavuma as an injury concern or potentially an injury boost?
Well, this is it, isn't it?
Averaging 20 in the competition, Reza Hendricks who comes in and
striking at 75. Hendricks,
came out and scored that 80 odd against England. They are just a different side with him.
Yeah, and look, I think that with the as Winnie wants to come into the podcast for the second time in a week, something about us recording in the kitchen, Vish. You're very welcome to come through, Winnie. It's all good. Although the novelty has worn off, it works once, probably not second. Come on, darling, Winnie. You can come through if you want. The last thing I just wanted to touch on before we jump off this is how we'll probably look back at Afghanistan's tournament. We said yesterday that Sri Lanka, who have been, by the way, suspended by the ICC today, we'll talk more about that on the weekly show next week with Jeff, I'm certain. But, you know, we're yesterday for Sri Lanka, we're like, well, that was a misadventure, as Winnie uses the potty to my left again whilst recording. Same thing she did the other day. The Afghanistan story, they fly home tomorrow. Well, not home specifically because that's not possible for them. Yeah. And you can't avoid that, right? That's the backdrop of all of this, that they've made significant strides in the context of being unable to have anywhere near the same sort of support they would have had in earlier editions of the World Cup. You pick up on that thought. I'll be back in a sec.
Yeah. No, I think you're spot on. I think what if you look at their tournament so far, you know, 4 wins, you'd probably say that was a success, and then you dig in deeper to the other situations they were in. We mentioned Australia before, 91 for 7, and very well dadded, by the way. I think, though, the Sri Lanka thing, the suspension from the ICC, is broadly relevant in terms of that's a situation of government interference. Yeah. We know about the Taliban in Afghanistan. We know about the women's team, and nothing was done there. I think the Jeff Allardyce has just come out and said, I think on the BBC Stump podcast, that when it comes to throwing forward to Olympic qualification, that would be a matter for the IOC, not the ICC.
Right.
So there's an element of different things for different people. And there's also a broader thing about government interference in Sri Lanka cricket. That's been going on for a while.
Yeah, it's not
going on for a long time.
With the sportsmen ticking off on the 11. And here's my last thought. I think Afghanistan will win a World Cup in the next 10 years. I'm not sure which format. Look, let's be honest, it'll be the T20 format. But I think they'll maybe not win. Sorry, I might be taking that one step too far. I think they'll play in a World Cup final. I think they'll do something similar to what Sri Lanka did in 1996. I see no reason other than stuff off the field that could preclude them from doing as they've been doing it and taking it another step and another step and another step, because they've got the goods, and that's been proven through the tournament. It's probably time for us, Vish, to reach the Final Word Hall of Fame. The Final Word Hall of Fame is brought to you by Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. Now, Vish, I've made a point of not pre-reading the copy for this because it's been so good, the ad copy we've had through the tournament. I don't want to spoil the surprise for you or me. I want to do it fresh. I don't want to let the fizz out. So here we go. Would you like to meet a man with a massive sack who's capable of miracles and can dispatch gifts to even the most difficult to reach spaces? No, it's not Glenn Maxwell, it's Father Christmas. What a line that is, Sheehan. Journey through a starlit sky before meeting the big guy in the red suit himself at Wish Upon a Star Santa experience at Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City from the 8th of December. The experience is free and you can take your own pictures, making it London's most affordable Meet Santa experience this Christmas. I'll tell you what, I'll have to do that with Winnie, believe me. Tickets are going fast, and if you miss out on the booking online, you don't need to go and collect them from your local Adidas store. That's very good. DM Sheehan Han Solo on Twitter. We'll put Sheehan's Twitter link in there. Say you're a Final Word listener, he'll see what he can do. So that's Sheehan, as in Paul Sheehan, former Australian opener, with Solo on the end. So Han Solo. You can work it out, you smart people, if you're watching this podcast. Westfield London, Westfield Stratford City. More extra, less ordinary. I went to the Christmas tree putting on last night and with the lights. And you know, we've said before, it's the biggest Christmas tree in Europe, possibly the world. I'm not even entirely convinced it's the biggest Christmas tree in London, but it was great to be out there and see the first night of the ice skating. It's worth getting along to. Your favourite moment of the day, Vish?
David Miller's catch. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you look like an all-American jock. You can also look like a loser by doing a good thing. He looked embarrassing. It was utterly embarrassing. Men that handsome shouldn't be put in those situations, and there he was, flapping at thin air.
Speaking of flapping, I love the way Rashid was like sledging Quinton de Kock during the third umpire process. This is another thing with Afghanistan. They're lippy. And
Oh, yeah.
I'm all about it.
You saw the David Warner and Rashid Khan
the other day, yeah. And it's not just Rashid, by the way. There was about 7 of them going at Quinton de Kock, going, "You're out here, mate. Fuck off, you're gone." Or words to that effect. Maybe not fuck off, but you know what I'm trying to say. But that's all part of it. They were. I remember interviewing Aminul Islam, who captained Bangladesh for the '99 World Cup in another program that I made, and he said that Steve Waugh was so delightful when they went to Buckingham Palace. He was a perfectly sweet and generous contemporary, right? Mm-hmm. Fellow international captain. When they played Australia, Waugh sledged him for the whole time he was out there relentlessly, right? And that was the dynamic, the little brother, big brother thing. Afghanistan are turning that on their head. Kirtia's celebration when he got Ibrahim Zadran caught behind down the leg side. It's like he won the weightlifting at the Olympic Games. Absolutely went for it.
He's quite. He's definitely a Marmite character, isn't he?
Yeah.
Love him if he's playing for your team.
Yeah, I think I'm into him. I think I like the fact that he's so over the top. It's hard not to be. And one that's not related to this game, but the Commercial Club Hotel, the Final Word home ground in Melbourne, with their food, they've been putting out on counter meals during the week since Australia's win the other day. They're marking in sauce on the plate 201 not out as a tribute to Glenn Maxwell. So Paddy and the team at the Commercial Club, we will see you soon, no doubt. That's it. That's our show today. Tomorrow there are 2 episodes. One with me and Cam, one with Jeff and somebody. Australia are playing Bangladesh in the early game. England are playing Pakistan, Vish, that's correct, isn't it? In the late game.
That is, yes.
And the final game of the group stage is when the Dutch play India on Sunday. Daily podcasts, one and all. Our history show is also in the feed, Storytime 158. Thank you for being a great co-host through the tournament. We'll hear from Vish again on the feed soon. He's the associate editor on ESPN Cricinfo, as if you didn't know that. I'm Adam Collins. We'll do it all again tomorrow. Westfield, London, Westfield, Stratford City. More extra, less ordinary. The Proteas to play Australia in the semis. Bye-bye, Afghanistan.